Welcome to our Q&A with our sheriff candidates. Um, Haley Kaplan and myself will be hosting this tonight. Our chair is currently traveling. He arrived in Willie arrived in Las Vegas just a little bit ago, and he's driving himself back. He might be able to get on to at a minimum listen in, and maybe we'll be able to get him promoted to talking, depending on if how good his signal is while he's driving. But um, just make sure, Haley, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
All right, great. And BJ and Barry, go ahead and unmute yourselves and turn on your cameras, and I'll introduce you guys. So we have BJ Judy and Barry Golding as our candidates for sheriff. This is our filling a vacancy. So this is a term that goes until January, and we have the general election um, happening in November, and that winner will take over the role in January. Now, of course, everybody knows we have one candidate from the Republican Party. And as far as I know, as of today, I don't believe there is another candidate yet, but I believe they have until mid-June to file for as an independent or not affiliated. So hopefully that stays no one running, and Johnny Hepler has a smooth transition right into our Republican nominated sheriff for right here in Washington County. Everybody understands this is in prep for our special meeting that is being held on May 6th, Wednesday, May 6th at Sun River. Haley, do you want to cover any other of the specifics like starting time and credentialing and stuff?
Sure, yeah. The credentialing will be from 5:30 and then we will call the meeting to order at 6:15. So be there, right at 5:30 if you can. Early, the candidates will be there as well early so you can ask any last minute questions, individual questions you have of them. And yeah, we've got a packed agenda, so we
Yes.
will take our election first and we'll get to some other bylaw things. So check your emails if you haven't been able to review those yet.
Yeah, perfect. And so how we'll run this, folks, look at your Zoom app, look for the Q&A section. You can post your questions there. We'll go through them, as many as we can get to. I know that as we get started, often questions keep coming up, and we'll address everyone that we can. And we have this scheduled for an hour, I believe. Is that right, Haley? I think we scheduled it for an hour.
Sorry, I couldn't get unmuted. Yes, 7 to 8. We'll get through as many as we can.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so why don't we start with as we go through the questions, we'll give 2 minutes for that. I'm not going to be super strict on the time. If you want to wrap up sooner, that's great. You don't have to use the full 2 minutes. If it's an easy question, you can answer it fast. That's perfectly great. If you start excessively going over the 2 minutes, then I'll probably interrupt and try to really in a little bit. I think, voters in general typically like to know that candidates can answer questions in a succinct way without rambling, and so going longer than 2 minutes is probably not a great thing. So we'll help you try to stay on track with timing. And why don't we start first though with a quick opening statement. So again, maximum 2 minutes. Use it all or don't use it all, but BJ, will have you go first because as we did our drawing, you're first on the ballot and first of the speech. And so we might as well carry that forward right in here for this. So opening statement, Barry, I'm sorry, BJ, you'll go first.
All right. I appreciate the time and I appreciate all those who are able to make it. I, my, my reason for wanting to take on this role of sheriff in a very short, condensed version is that I truly have a passion for this office. My career has been here for the past 21 years, and I want to make sure we're successful. I want to make sure that the office is steady and calm for the next 6 months. I know a lot of people will look at it that being a short period of time, but I do feel like it's a very crucial period of time to be able to foster that on incoming sheriff come January. One of the motivating factors also I have is that I want to make sure that we're sound in the constitutional laws that we have in place, and I feel like my experience within the sheriff's office has been basically brought me to a point where I feel confident in doing that with a very successful team around me as well. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I'm excited to, answer some questions and talk to people and see how this goes.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And Barry, quick opening statement.
Okay, my name is Barry Golding. I've been spent more than 35 years in law enforcement. I began my career serving as a military police officer and was activated to Operation Desert Storm. After that, I've had the privilege of serving the community in multiple law enforcement roles, starting St. George Police Department, worked there for 20 years, retired as a captain. In 2011, took a year off, went to work for the county attorney's office as the chief investigator over the investigations division at that office. Um, about 10 years into that, former Sheriff Brooksby came to me 2021, asked me to be his undersheriff. I accepted that, came into the sheriff's office at that time with him for his first term. And I've been the undersheriff since that time. And March 27th, I became the acting sheriff, and I've been filling that role since he resigned. I agree with BJ. I think it's been a rough season for the sheriff's office recently with things that have happened. I do believe that we need steady leadership. We need to calm the storm a little bit in the office and reassure not only the staff but the citizens in our community that we're here to serve, and we're going to keep moving forward with operations, and we're going to be steady, and nothing's going to change. And the goal is obviously to get to the January date with the Sheriff-elect Hepler. And my goal is to create as smooth as on-ramp as I possibly can for him coming in at that time, introduce him to the office staff, move him around a little bit, get him kind of accustomed to the way the sheriff's office operates, familiar with budget, policy, and the many different components that the sheriff's office has, which is extensive. I can tell you that my commitment is to the sheriff's office. My commitment has been to law enforcement and public service my entire adult life. And I want to move forward, and I look forward to the future, working with the team of leadership that we currently have in place, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. So, Barry, you started touching on the next question. This is from somebody on the call. He just went by the initials JDJ. And so you started touching on this, so I'll just let you keep going with this, which is, how do you plan on supporting Johnny Hepler when he takes office in January? So maybe expand on what you started with.
Johnny Hepler and I have had a lot of conversations. We've talked as recently as today. We talked for about an hour, and we talk about the future of the sheriff's office and his vision and his goals for the sheriff's office. And I absolutely support his vision, his objectives coming in. He is absolutely a visionary that I trust and I respect. I've known Johnny Hepler since he started at the St. George Police Department. I can't remember what year it was, but I think I was a sergeant or lieutenant at the time when he started. And I've watched Johnny come up through the ranks and kind of mature as a really effective leader in that department. And I've watched him really excel with the Washington County Drug Task Force and leading that, combating the fentanyl and all the different drug problems that are coming through the community. And he and I are 100% aligned in moving January 1st. And we will communicate all the way through up to that time to ensure, hopefully a pretty good landing for him coming in on January 1st.
All right, BJ, same question. How do you plan on supporting Johnny Hepler as he takes office?
Yeah, me and Johnny Hepler, we worked in the drug task force together for a number of years. So I've known Johnny for a long time. I'm excited for him. He has a very positive outlook. He loves what he does. I think, for me, the biggest thing that I hope to help him with is to see that there is a difference between being part of a police department and the sheriff's office. There's a distinct difference. And so my job will be to help him see how the county does things, and I'm excited for his ideas and the input he'll have to kind of make that and grow on it. But there is a difference, right? There is a different way that the county operates, and I like change, especially when it's positive. And again, Johnny has a way of doing that where everybody can see his vision and you feel part of that team. So, I'm excited for that time if I'm lucky enough to fill this role, in November after he's elected, to start having those serious conversations and that transitional period for him to take over. Again, we have a great relationship. We're very honest and open with each other. And that's what I plan to do is just be honest with him and help him see things. And, whether there's some changes that come down the pipe, that's totally fine. But my role would just be to support him, to be there to answer any questions he has and help him and be successful.
All right, very good. All right, our next question comes from Lisa. She wants to know, will you be doing any meet and greets in person? And if so, or if not, how do you plan on reaching out to all the CCC members to convey your messages of what you'll deliver? And BJ, you'll go first on this one.
Yeah, I would love to. And I don't like making excuses. I think people want, even though it's a very short period of time and pretty hectic schedule for both me and Barry, we got next week is our law enforcement appreciation for our team. And so that's Tuesday and Wednesday. So that'd be interesting how we kind of get through that. Uh, if I can pull it off, the plan is Monday night, is when I'm hoping to get some together hopefully around 7 p.m. And the way I'll communicate that is through email. I've already sent out an email with my a little bit more of a bio, but that's how I would try to get that facilitated. So hopefully, if I can, by 7 p.m. is the game plan tentatively as of tonight.
And Barry, what are your thoughts on connecting with our CCC members?
My thoughts, that's key to communication. Obviously, trying to get the message out of what my goals and my vision are as the sheriff. I've gone through and wrote emails independently to every person on the CCC, and I've texted, I've called, and I've got quite a few phone calls back, quite a few emails back, and I've actually spent up to 45 minutes with one individual talking through kind of what their thoughts were, what their expectations were of the next sheriff. And I'm willing to do that with anybody that reaches out to me. Hopefully everybody's got my phone number. It doesn't matter if it's a weekend, holiday, it's a short period that we've got to try to communicate with this large group. And I'm trying to do that as effectively as possible, but I am absolutely open to meeting with people in person. I've been to people's houses. I do want to welcome that, and I sincerely mean that, to call me anytime, day or night. And we are going to be reaching out in person, obviously at the beginning of next week, and trying to make phone contact with people. And I know it's, the texting and trying to get people to call you back is sometimes hard with schedules, but we are doing everything we can do to reach out and get my message out as to what my plan is for the sheriff's office for the next year.
All right, fantastic. This next question, Barry, you'll go first on this one. If anything, would you have done something differently than former Sheriff Brooksby during his last term?
If anything, would I have done something differently? I think Sheriff Brooksby was a great sheriff. He was thorough. He was dedicated. He absolutely was very knowledgeable of the sheriff's office and the kind of the inner workings of every part of it. The institutional knowledge he had of the sheriff's office was a 30-year base. And I was able to learn a lot from Sheriff Brooksby during that time. I think the thing that I would do differently is I would try to be present. I would be present more throughout the week, Monday through Friday, in the office, available to lead the office the way that it needs to be led. I respect, there were some things that happened towards the end of his tenure that I think I would do obviously differently if given the opportunity, and those were some missteps. I don't think it's any secret. It's been in the media, and I really, that was a difficult time for the sheriff's office, for myself personally, and I think there was a lot of question as to what happened to him and I don't want to get into any gossip or any rumor. But I will say this: I really respect Nate Brooksby. I wish him the best, and to say I'll do things differently is absolutely my plan. My leadership style is way different than Nate Brooksby's. I'm more altruistic. I think that leading by example and being there present for the people and communicating is the key. I've always said this, leadership by walking around, get with your guys, get with your troops, get with your people, and just see how things are going in every part of the sheriff's office, back in the jail, visit the courts, talk to the courts, court support services, and just be present and answer questions. And I think the most important thing for the sheriff is to listen to every single person in the sheriff's office.
All right, perfect. Well, you got a good timer in your head because you hit it just at 2 minutes right there. BJ, that same question for you as well. If anything, would you have done anything different?
Yeah, as far as his policies and our day-to-day operation, no, matter of fact, I hope to continue the programs that he's helped us, with whether that's 287G, drug court stuff, he's very supportive of. So as far as operations goes, no, a matter of fact, I just want to make sure it continues and we strengthen kind of what he set. I think he did a great job. Even for our employees, it's the morale has never been higher. And so I think, basically I just want to be that and echo kind of what he did. And obviously there's some things that happened that I would avoid. And then I echo what Barry says, I think that's part of the key is to be present, be available, make sure you're taking care of your people. And obviously that's a part of what a sheriff does. But it's very important because if we have happy, good, very well trained employees, that resonates and goes out into the community, and that's what they see because they're going to represent us. Each of those deputy sheriffs represent the sheriff, and so if we do our part to make them feel like they are, very valuable in this team, then the citizens of this county see that, and they'll look at our deputies and be like, man, their sheriff must be pretty decent. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what we need to continue to do for sure.
All right, very good. You'll continue on this next question, BJ. This one's from Fred, and Fred wants to know what do you see as the single most pressing challenge faced by the sheriff's office, and how would you address it if elected?
Single most pressing. Um, Fred, that's a good one. Thanks for challenge. We have such a great team. So when I'm looking at what a challenge is, I think that comes from different directions because, right now I'm over as a chief deputy over the patrol division. We have challenges with employees at times. So I've, learning more and more that the sheriff, it's not just overseeing the sheriff's office, but again, it's looking out for the county as a whole to be able to make sure that things are, running constitutionally sound, that the people are protected in those constitutional rights. I think Washington County does a great job of that. Don't get me wrong, we have our pitfalls, but if I was to look at, like, especially for the next 6 months, I think the biggest challenge is to make sure that our employees, like I was saying, because they represent the sheriff when they're out and about and doing their thing, and in the correction setting, to make sure that they are steadfast to understand the support is strong, that the sheriff and his command staff will make sure to lead with steadfastness and integrity and be accountable and hold our guys accountable. And so, I think just making sure our people are set to be successful. And in turn, I think that will resonate with our community.
All right, so if I can summarize, I think you're basically saying that you believe the single most pressing is kind of internal management of the organization, less about any particular issue that the community is facing.
Right, right.
Correctly?
That's, again, when they go out and about into the community, that's, they're going to be representatives of the sheriff, independently as they're out there. So I think that's, when I say it's a challenge, I don't think it's one that's going to be hard for sure at all, but.
Okay. Same question over to you, Barry. Single most pressing challenge you think is facing the sheriff's department, sheriff's office?
I think that's a good question. I think the single most pressing challenge that I see is the growth of Washington County. Trying to keep up with, obviously it's important to people that when they call for help that we can get there quickly. We need to have the resources and the manpower out there to respond to those calls for service. The county's growing so fast. It's an unprecedented thing for Washington County to see the growth. We get challenged in many different directions at the sheriff's office with that growth. For example, we've got another judge coming in, two more judges, and actually one's a replacement, one's a brand new court, which calls for we have to hire more bailiffs. We have to, that's the growth I'm speaking to. And I think that growth impacts our jail, our correctional facility. The crowding back there is a concern, and I think we've done a good job preparing for the growth in the jail. As a matter of fact, with our recent expansion to the jail, I think it's projected to get us out to at least 15, 20 years in the future with the amount of bed space that we've just added on to the jail. And so I think that is a huge compliment to the county commissioners. That was a huge funding project for the county and the taxpayers to afford that. And I think that's a good thing, that preparation looking way down the road at what the needs are going to be for Washington County.
Awesome. You'll keep going on this one, Barry. And this one's kind of similar, but it kind of drives you into maybe a little bit more specific of an answer. In what area or areas do you see the sheriff's office not putting enough focus on or energy, and how would you solve it? So, biggest challenge is a little bit different than, seeing an actual gap in where you're putting in where the department is putting a focus on. And that was from Caleb.
Okay, that's a good question. One thing that I've seen the gap, I've seen the need for, we've got what is referred to as ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children. We've got a serious problem in Washington County with these child predators that are attacking and getting online with our children. And obviously there's the trafficking element or component involved in those internet crimes. And one of the things that I think we could do more of is create, hopefully, a countywide, like ICAC Metro investigative team to move in more effectively with more personnel throughout the county to combat this countywide problem. It's not just Hurricane, it's not just St. George or Washington, it's countywide. These predators are everywhere in the county. And I think increasing that capability to do those internet crimes and look at the human trafficking part of that is key to I think the safety of our kids and our families and everything that we stand for as citizens in the community to obviously protect. And I think that's one of the plans that I'm going to really push is to try to build that investigative base up to attack that more fiercely.
Very good. Same question to you, BJ. A gap that maybe isn't spent enough time on today.
Um, I think we do a pretty good job in several different areas. I love Barry's choice there. If I could steal it, I would, but I can't. So I'll pick a different one because I too believe that's a very important one to attack. I think what would be pretty close to that is our drug problem that we have. I think we definitely need to make sure because if you look at the drug nexus that we have, you probably can associate most crimes that occur within Washington County. There is a nexus to it, and so I think making sure we devote more resources and time and energy into that will definitely help slow down just even the smaller crimes that we consider, lesser crimes because it's either people that are looking for how to pay for their next use or whatnot, and then those that are supplying it. I think if we take an active role on I-15, even though it's not staying in the county, it's trafficking through. If all counties did their part, even once a month or once a quarter, throughout the country, I think we'd put a pretty good dent into the drug problem that we have here that I think they'll correlate to almost any crime you can think of. So,
All right, fantastic. So Randa wants to know, have did you consider running for sheriff prior to Nate's resignation, and why did you choose not to?
Who is that question for?
BJ, you're going first on that one.
Yeah, no, I've never considered it. This is all very new to me. I enjoy what I do. Yeah, I've never thought about running for sheriff. It's been an interesting process. I've been enjoying it. But once Johnny steps in, I'll be more than happy to release the reins to him and go back to doing what I was doing before this.
All right, very good. And Barry, for you, did you consider this?
No, I didn't consider it. Recently, I was asked to kind of step in and fill this void until we could get to this point of this special election. I think I've always considered myself more of a right hand. I'm perfectly willing, capable to take the helm, but I think my strengths are better suited for that operational level of management. I do think that looking at the future with Johnny Hepler and the kind of the partnership of my experience and his experience, I think he is the ultimate sheriff. I can't think of anybody better in the county that could step in. And so to answer your question, no, I haven't thought about running, nor would I.
All right, very good. So I've heard from numerous sources about strife or angst between St. George PD and maybe just the PDs in general and the sheriff's department. Can you talk to like how you're going to create a culture where your sheriff's department takes the lead at bridging that, where all of the PDs can be a trusted partner in solving the issues of our community? And Barry, you're up first on that one.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the relationships that I've established with the chiefs in the county, I know currently every chief, I've worked with them, all of them for their entire careers. And I think that communication and that trust between agencies is key. I think every agency head, chief, sheriff has to be willing to be open-minded enough to join and collaborate to build programs that benefit the entire county. And I think that has been something, quite honestly, that's been lacking between some police departments and the sheriff's office. I see a very, very positive future with the relationship that I have with Chief Whitehead and the absolute relationship that Johnny Hepler has with Chief Whitehead and the other chiefs in the county. I hope to turn that corner, Gary. I do. I think that's something that is in my 35 years here. It's really been bothersome to me that we don't get along better, and typically it starts at the top, as everybody knows. And I think we're going to have the right people in the right place January 1st to finally turn that corner and get all the agencies on the same page. I'm optimistic.
All right, BJ, what do you think about that?
Well, so I might have a little bit different viewpoint. I think both me and Barry have been in this career for a long time, and I actually see it a little different in the sense where our relationships, I feel like, have come leaps and bounds. From 15 years ago when I first started, it was a very um, open dialogue of not necessarily agreeing with each other and one better than the other type of a relationship. But I think in recent years, I think it's been actually pretty strong. You have people that are chiefs that are in their positions now, like Chief Williams. He started in corrections. I worked with him, 20 years ago when we both started together, and he became a chief years ago. And I was like, how in the world? That's amazing. And then you got Nutritelli out there in Leverkin, and me and him worked on the drug task force together. And so I think these relationships were built and strengthened because people that are in these positions, whether they're the chief or captains, you have the Captain Minnick and Captain Johnny Hepler, with St. George, we all worked narcotics together and formed a bond. So it's actually a very easy phone call away when there are issues. And I feel like those relationships honestly kind of really helped, make our relationships that much stronger. Now, don't get me wrong, we could always work to make it better. But I feel like we've come so far, and I think we're on the right track to continue that growth. And Johnny will do a great job, facilitating that as well.
All right, thank you both. Next question, and BJ, you'll start this one. This one's also from Randa. This one starts to get a little bit more into manage of the office, right? Like, and we're probably going to be bouncing around a bit. Like, I don't want to keep it all issues and all management. Like, we'll just kind of bounce around and think about just to keep it interesting. So this one's really about how will you manage the department's budget and resources efficiently? So tell us a little bit about your experience, in running a big organization like a sheriff's office.
Right. And so since I've been in this position for the last three and some change, I've been a part and luckily with great command staff, Barry being a part of that. And we, obviously we have our own areas to cover when it comes to the budget. So mine's is the patrol division, that has, everything from patrol supplies to investigation supplies, search and rescue. And so, and obviously it's not just me doing that. I have lieutenants and sergeants that help, get those budget line items that they need. And so, it's up to me to filter through those and see what are necessities and what are, more wishful thinking. And then looking at what we can get grants for. That way we can offset those costs, and hopefully save, taxpayer money for the county. And so, yeah, being able to look at those budgets over the last 3 years, and then we come together as a team and kind of look at the overall budget. We're all pretty hands-on and involved. Obviously, the final step to go in front of the commissioners, that was Nate and Barry's job to do that. And so I was never there in the talks because I'm sure there were some healthy ones trying to get stuff approved and how we had to trim different areas. But I'm going to make sure that the sheriff's office has the budget it needs to be able to equip our whether that's on the correction side or the patrol side with what they need, whether that's for training budget, equipment wise, manpower, and making sure we're just an organization that is healthy but fiscally sound as well, because we have to be accountable for taxpayer dollars.
Awesome. All right, Barry, tell us about your experiences with the budget and how would you manage that?
My experience with the budget is a little bit different than BJ's. I've had the opportunity to work with all three divisions, look at the budgets independently within those three divisions. And I see it right now. The current budget that we are operating under for 2026 is $36,097,000. I think with that amount of money, taxpayer money, I think it's critical that we are responsible stewards of that money. Every penny, every dime of that is spent. And those negotiations with the commissioners and with the county administrator regarding those government and those public funds, I take that extremely serious. And when we look at things, we ask, is it a need? Do we need to have this item or can we do without it? And I agree with BJ. There are things that we need. There are operational things that we just can't go without. But I do think that being very, very careful with those funds is key to the administration or the sheriff's responsibility. That's a massive amount of money. I think it's obviously the highest funded department in the county. And I think fiscal responsibility is the highest priority with those funds and managing that budget effectively.
Awesome, thank you. Hey, one follow-up, because I heard you mention three divisions in the office. I've heard patrol mentioned and corrections mentioned. What's the third?
The third is a support services division. So they handle the bailiffs in the courts. They handle the medical. It is what it implies. It's kind of the support components to the office, the transport unit. They manage you see the work crews out on the freeway. That's part of support services. Those deputies that are out there with those inmates on the cleanup on the highway. But that all falls within that division. And can I expand on that a little bit?
Sure, I'll give you another minute on that.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So when I first came into the sheriff's office, we had two divisions and they were extremely lopsided. The correction side had about 2/3 of the office. And the way the span of control works is there's only so many people that you can supervise effectively with one supervisor or one chief. So I suggested to the former sheriff that we split it up into three divisions. to manage it more effectively. And as a result of that, that support services division was created about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and it has been extremely effective with supervising and management all the way from the chief down to the sergeant level, and being able to effectively manage personnel and budgets and things that come along with those divisions. So I think the sheriff's office has grown in a positive way that way to really take a look and kind of focus. It gives those chiefs more focus on their individual divisions to prioritize what they need.
Perfect. Thank you. BJ, do you want to touch on the organizations with the three divisions at all?
Barry summed it up perfectly.
Okay.
It was a great concept, and it made sense. You know what I mean? So I'm sure the chief over the corrections really appreciated it because it cut down that span of control big time. So it was a really good call.
All right, very good. This next one's going to be fun. I want you guys to be nice to each other. Sean wants to know what differentiates you from your opponent, and BJ, you'll go first.
Yeah, there's nothing, I've talked to Barry since putting in, and we've gotten past the awkwardness. It genuinely is, when I look at this, where my whole career has been at the sheriff's office, I just feel like I could add that to this, again, part of the calming of what we've gone through. I mean, we lost the sheriff. That was uncharted territory. It came out of left field, and with my insight and interactions with the deputies in the agency or our office, I feel like I can step up to that plate to be able to navigate us through this calm. Not that Barry couldn't either. Again, this is coming from my personal viewpoint of being a sheriff's deputy for the last 21 years. But that really, in my mind, is the biggest reason. And I feel like, as far as, taking on this role, I think it should have you guys should have a say in who that fills that. So providing that opportunity for you delegates to make a decision and not just one person that's there. So I felt it was my obligation to step up to the plate, and I feel like I'm more than capable and excited for the opportunity to do so.
All right, thank you. That's a great answer. Barry, how do you feel about that?
I agree with a lot of what BJ had to say. I mean, both of us, BJ used the term last week. We're both kind of cut from the same cloth as far as our leadership style, being altruistic and listening to people, and their concerns as they come through. In looking at this race that we're in right now between the two of us, I think the biggest thing that is different or separates us is the experience. I've got at the executive level about 21 and a half years as a lieutenant, chief, under sheriff. And I think another thing that separates us is kind of my experience working with all three divisions at the sheriff's office and overseeing operations and being able to get that exposure to the entire office. And I think BJ is a great patrol chief, and that's talking differences. Not like I said, we're both very capable. But to separate myself out, I'd have to say that's it. That executive level experience and overseeing the entire sheriff's office,
Awesome.
overseeing all three divisions.
Yeah, thank you. So this kind of plays, this is a nice follow on to that, because obviously with your experiences, I'm sure you both have had your fair share of high pressure situations. So can you give us a couple of examples of that and like how you handled it? So give us a real world, right? Not hypothetical, but like, this and this happened and this is how I handled it. Barry, you'll go first on that.
Throughout my career, I've been involved in a lot of high risk events with SWAT. I spent 12 years on the SWAT team. I was a sniper team leader, and I was in situations where I was within, a blink of pulling the trigger on another human being in a lot of different situations. And that pressure is unreal. And the split second decision making that has to come into play is very, very difficult. It's a training part of what we do to prepare for those high stress situations. I've been through multiple high risk search warrants, high risk traffic stops, multiple fights, physical fights to the ground with combative people that are resisting arrest. But I think the stress, you talk about, a bank robbery, things like that, responding to those in progress. The list is a mile long, and I'm sure it is for BJ as well. It's hard to kind of isolate one particular high stress incident. But I would say all in all, probably that closeness that officers come to, that I've come to, and using deadly force. And that's probably the highest stress situation I think an officer can be put under.
Thank you. BJ, what would you like to talk about with
Probably the
specific fights?
most. Sorry, I apologize. I was just so excited to answer. I'm sorry about that.
No, go ahead.
Probably the most stressful, is when I'm looking at most recently, we unfortunately and fortunately at the same time had the opportunity to be part of the Charlie Kirk assassination, where that gentleman turned himself into our office. That was kind of, run in the background by Nate. But that was pretty intense. I was the first one at the office and met that gentleman there at our office and had to maintain a very professional decorum with him and keep him in a very safe place. Obviously, I can't go into very many details, but I got there at 8 p.m. at the office, and we had to do a lot of logistical. Turned out to be a very hectic night that I was there till about 10 a.m. With facilitating, different three-letter agencies through our office. At one point we had people sleeping all over the place in different rooms, and so a lot of that came down to me just, logistically helping make sure that everybody had what they needed. Because we didn't play a hands-on role, but it was in our office, right? We had to make sure that they had from recording interview rooms, you name it. We just and so that was one of the things, and Barry was there as well. So that was probably the most recent. And shortly after that, the Republican Party put on a memorial for Charlie Kirk, and so that was probably the next one. And so on the heels of that, we were pretty on high alert to make sure that that went smoothly. And so that was my job, was to come up with a game plan on how most effectively to protect those that come to that event. And so that was I was able to put together an ops plan, and we did a lot of walkthroughs of that convention center, and we had our SWAT team, sniper teams, and agencies throughout, all local agencies, including our three letter partners that were all there. I think in total we had probably 60 law enforcement personnel there. Me and Barry were able to do some recon out in the desert area from high vantage points to make sure that there was nothing there. So we got our boots dirty a little bit, but that was probably the next one too, because that again, if anything went wrong, they'd probably come back to me and saying, "Hey, how'd you miss this piece?" And so that was pretty stressful. I know we were wrong. That wasn't just me, but that
Okay.
was my obligation to oversee that ops plan and make
Yeah.
sure it went smoothly.
Perfect. Yeah, and honestly, being on that side, I mean, it was our team that organized that and worked with your departments, and it was stunning the level of detail that you guys did, for that event. So yeah, we all thank you very much for that. One follow-up question on that, and we'll stick with you, BJ, on it, and we'll see if Barry has anything to add. But you mentioned about the stress of the Charlie Kirk shooter turning himself in. And correct me if I misunderstand, what's been reported in the media. If I just have a totally misunderstanding of it, then just correct it as, the premise of the question. But,
Mhm.
it was reported that, they finally went around to requesting the, video footage of the shooter turning himself in, and it had already been deleted. And I guess I just wonder, like, how was that not set up? How was that not set aside as evidence well before any news agency thought about asking for it? BJ, can you address that? And again, if I have it wrong, just please tell me I have it wrong.
Yeah, and that's a great question. Just honestly, I think what they were requesting was the outside footage of him pulling up in the parking lot, if I remember correctly. And Barry, please let me know if I'm not allowed to, because it is an ongoing investigation, so I need to be
Right,
careful.
right, right.
So just shake your head in the negative, please. If That's me being genuine because I don't know if I am allowed to say too much, but it was not well, deleted is what happened, but it just overrode itself, and it was just a complete oversight, plain and simple.
Barry?
Yeah, I will add a little bit to that. It was kind of, I think, made into more of an issue than it really was. The bottom line was is that the way that he came in that night, BJ and I were both there, and it was him walking through the parking lot into the building was just benign. And looking back, we didn't even think to save that go back and try to retrieve or preserve that video of the front entryway and the hallway coming back into the interview room where he was led to. And honestly, by the time it got to us with that request, that had overlapped. After 25, 30 days, it just overlaps if you don't preserve it. And we did learn from that. Anytime that happens in the future, first thing I'm going to do is make. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to make sure we preserve every bit of video. It doesn't matter if it's a person walking down the sidewalk, if it's related to that incident. I'm going to make sure we preserve it. If we don't need it, we don't need it, but at least we've got it.
Well, it's certainly good to know that there was a lesson learned from that too. So we appreciate that. Um, so Barry, you'll go first on this one. What are your thoughts on using unmarked vehicles for traffic stops?
That's a good question. I
Do you
think that's
support it?
that. I do support it. I think there is a need for that type of enforcement. We are out doing drug interdiction work on I-15. I think that there's a lot of controversy with that. There's a lot of people that think, this could be a bad guy, with red and blue lights in his car. And how do I know it's the real police pulling us over? But I do think there's a time and a place for those unmarked vehicles. A lot of times when we're out doing that drug interdiction, to complement at least my experience at the sheriff's office, we always make sure we've got either a K9 marked unit or another marked unit closely by, and to hopefully back up and complement that unmarked unit on that traffic stop to reassure that citizen that's being stopped that this is the actual police. And it is something that is concerning. If you get pulled over by an unmarked vehicle, I can see the fear in people, questioning, is this really an officer? Am I in danger? We don't know who this person is. And a lot of times, one thing is some of these detectives don't wear full uniforms. So that creates a little bit more of a fear to the public. And I know in our unmarked units that we have two of them that do drug interdiction. Those officers, those deputies operating those vehicles are in full uniform, full badge. They're not undercover. And typically the goal is to have another marked unit really close by or right next to them at the time of the stop.
So just to follow up on that, because the question was really about traffic patrol, and you kind of went into drug interdiction, and I just wonder, are those actually the same thing, or is there a difference? Because I guess I might be able to see my way into agreeing with you if that work is focusing on a very particular um, task like drug interdiction. But
Right.
I just really struggle on the traffic side. So did you mean those to be the same thing, or are they in fact different?
No, 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 not the traffic side. I don't agree with unmarked units just being out pulling people over for traffic violations in general. I way would prefer to have a marked unit doing that. That is a specialized task that I'm referring to.
Okay. See, I'm glad I followed up with a question, because I think, the question was about traffic, and then you went
Right.
you went into drug interdiction, which I think is a special purpose and valuable. So
No,
okay, so we
gen-
got we got
gen-
you on record that you're not happy with it. You're not in support of it for general traffic, which is
right.
great. BJ, where are you at with unmarked cars specifically for traffic enforcement?
Yeah, I personally don't mind them. I think they have a place. I've been when I'm driving on the freeway because my vehicle is unmarked. You get that medium compliance when a marked vehicle is either parked in the middle of the freeway there or driven by. And then all of a sudden you see that behavior change pretty quickly. So I think there is a place for it. I don't think it needs to be, and I think our unmarked vehicles that are traffic or do traffic as well. They're not like the typical unmarked, right, where it's just nothing at all. It's a subdued, right, sheriff's office on the side there. So I'm sure that still would count as unmarked, but the reality there is markings, but it is more subdued compared. Like when you're looking at it, you have to look pretty close. And that's so I'm okay. I like that idea. I do like the idea of having unmarked vehicles that enforce some traffic laws.
Fantastic. Lisa wants to know if you win, what will you have the other candidate do during the interim? And what do you expect you'll do in January when Johnny takes over? I think that second part we may have touched on already, but specifically, what's the role of the opponent if you were to win? And BJ, you're first on that.
Yeah, so again, after we got past the awkwardness of it, I reassured Barry that he'll be the undersheriff. Listen, that much experience and knowledge, and again, we have a great working relationship. I don't want that to change at all. We'll be at every meeting together, whether that's internally, outside with other agencies. I don't want to. I call him. You've been my right hand man, and we're just gonna continue to do great things. So yeah, my plan is to, and I fully expect Johnny to come in and when he comes in, basically wherever he wants me, that's where I'll go. And my hope is just to go back quietly to my chief deputy position over patrol, and be a rock star for him. But
Well,
that's my
BJ, don't
plan.
don't jump the gun. Let him answer that. Barry, what if you win? What do you have planned for BJ?
My plan is to keep the command staff that we've got right now is an incredible team. I've referred to it over the years as the dream team of command. And the three chiefs that we've got currently in place, you couldn't handpick a better group of individuals and leaders to run the sheriff's office. My hope is everybody would stay in place. The plan for me is I'm not going to, if I win, I'm not going to appoint an undersheriff. I think that can save the taxpayers some money between now and January. And I'm going to lean on these chiefs to kind of take up some of that load that the undersheriff typically had to get us through to January. And then when Johnny comes in, he can make a decision on who he wants to put where. And hopefully, I think we are very capable with our current staffing at the command level to fully function with, just as effectively as we have been for the past 4 years.
That's fantastic. All right, so Randa wants to know what initiatives do you have in mind for youth engagement and crime prevention? So what have you thought about? What's in motion, or what can we do additionally to engage our youth in this community? And Barry, you're up first.
There's a lot of programs that have been tried by law enforcement agencies over the years with these youth type academies that come into a police department or a sheriff's office. It kind of gets them some exposure as to what this job is. They get to go back, at least in our office, go back and see what the jail's like, see what the correction setting is like for a correctional officer. They get to go out and ride with a deputy, and I think that we've actually got somebody in our office right now that I think went through that program years and years ago when we used to have a junior type academy. I don't know what it was referred to, but it was engaging. I think we had a lot of, the 15, 16, 17-year-old, if that's the age group we're talking about, that had a lot of interest in law enforcement. And it was kind of a good window for them to see through, is this an occupation or a career or profession that I want to do? And I think it's a positive thing. They're coming in, they're seeing role models, they're seeing people that are protecting the community, they're seeing people that are, the ethics are just incredibly above reproach. And the discipline, right, that they get to learn coming through and watching, how police conduct themselves is a great thing. But as far as initiatives, I think that would be one thing that we could do. And obviously, short of that, I haven't given that a lot of thought, but you've definitely put that in my head.
All right, BJ, what do you think about youth programs?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great concept, and when I was in the drug task force, that was the norm. Like I started off in the gang unit, and we did presentations at the beginning of every year to every school in the county, and likewise on the narcotic side, and did education, right, and Q&As with them, engaged with them, and I think that we need to do more of that, and that definitely would be something I push right now. Our investigation lieutenant, I can't take credit for it, but he's already, started an initiative like this, not necessarily focused directly with the youth, but just in general, like especially when it comes to all these different fraud schemes that are popping up and people getting phone calls saying that they're with the sheriff's office and trying to get money to pay for their nephew's bail. They've been proactive in reaching out to ask for groups to have them put on presentations, and that's now drawn over to internet crimes against children type presentations. And so I think on our website or our Facebook page, you'll see that invite to please reach out and have them be there to put on these presentations. I think that's a key component that we've slacked on for the last probably 10 years, because I don't think we've been doing that for a while, even in the drug task force setting. So I think it's important. I know my lieutenant is he's all about that, and I think that's a very strong initiative to really get ramped up, especially with the youth.
Fantastic. All right. We're getting close to end. I'm going to try to squeeze another question or two in. The Republican Party platform, specifically about immigration, states, "We believe that current laws against employing illegal immigrants should be vigorously enforced, particularly to stem the now too common crime of identity theft in obtaining employment." Do you think we're doing enough with respect to following this Republican Party platform and ensuring that we make Southern Utah not attractive to illegal immigrants to come here? And what else would you see doing more in that space? BJ, you're first on that.
Yeah, obviously we're not doing enough. I think we've had a healthy conversation about this where I think we're doing our part because we just recently got this authority from ICE, which is called 287G, that to be able to even enforce immigration laws, because before that we just don't have that, we didn't have that authority. So now that we have it, it is a process and to figure out how best to utilize it with the manpower we have and the time we have. And so we have chosen to use this task force model to go after those that are the criminal element. Now, I get when we say criminal element, that should encompass any illegal immigrant because they're here criminally illegally. Now, we had to make a choice in saying, hey, with the time frame we have, the manpower we have, we're looking for, when we go out proactively with operations, those that have a criminal history or here with aggravated reentry. And so that's what we've chosen to focus on. Again, it's because we just don't have the bandwidth to do more right now. But I feel like that is a very good start in the right direction. And we've only been doing this, had this authority and these credentials within the last 4 months. But I do feel like there is progress to be made, and I think this is a good stepping stone in that direction.
All right, Barry.
I agree with a lot of what BJ just said. I think that 287G has allowed us to partner with ICE to deal with the illegal immigration in Washington County. One benefit that I've seen, as far as the sheriff's office and the cooperation with ICE is it allows me as a sheriff to have one hand on the steering wheel of what these federal agents are doing in our county. And we absolutely support it, but they're not out there acting alone without, obviously we have a seat at the table. And I'm very glad for that with the 287G program that we're able to have influence and be kind of partners in that. So we have a certain degree of control at the county level as to what actions are occurring in Washington County. And I've seen a huge impact just in a few months. I was talking to our corrections jail commander, and we're averaging every couple of days 10 to 15 those bookings through ICE coming through our jail. And it's impacting the jail, and we've absolutely made sure that we have the space back there to accommodate all those inmates coming through with ICE so they can be processed and deported onto the next facility, which I believe is in Nevada. So we've got contracts with the U.S. Marshals to make sure that we're facilitating those inmates, in accordance with law and processing them accordingly.
Fantastic. Barry, why don't you just go ahead and flow right into a 1 minute closing statement. We'll call that the end.
Okay. Looking at the recent events at the sheriff's office, a lot has happened. I never expected to be in a political setting at this point in my career, but here we are. And I'm grateful at the trust that has been, given to me by the community, by the commission to temporarily appoint me as the acting sheriff. I do believe that it's key to get us through, that we unite within the sheriff's office and that we move forward in a positive direction and that we have community engagement so we can demonstrate to the community that we're still solid, we're still operating, we're still functional, and our commitment has not wavered to the citizens of Washington County. And the integrity is there. Reinstill that trust in the sheriff's office. It has been damaged a little bit with the recent media and things that have happened. We can get that back. And I'm confident with the team that we've got in place, we will succeed. And I'm looking forward to the future at the sheriff's office and just kind of moving past and building and just making us more successful as we move into 2027.
Thank you, Barry. BJ, closing statement. Try to keep it to 1 minute, please.
Yes, I'm excited for this process. But when I first we even contemplated doing this, I mean, it was a mixed emotions, especially where, there is potential for me to put myself out there where it doesn't favor me, if I don't win, which is fine. But I'm just excited to be able to be part of the sheriff's office in any aspect. If I'm being honest, I do just genuinely feel that if I'm able to take this role, that I'll be able to make sure that we get there to when January comes and be able to give our people internally the guidance and calm that they need right now, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for this process. This is pretty cool. Again, never thought a million years I'd be part of politics, and I've actually thoroughly enjoyed meeting with delegates that I have so far, and can't wait to meet the rest of them.
Well, we all certainly appreciate and are grateful for your time taking this, not just tonight, but even putting your name forward and looking to serve our community. So thank you very much for doing that. I got about a little more than a dozen additional questions that we couldn't get to, so I'll actually email those to you both, and you can choose how you want to. If you want to decide to answer them and send an email out to everybody with your answers, or do whatever you want with them, take it as feedback, whatever you like. But I'll at least make sure that everything that was sent in does get sent to you guys. Again, thank you both for your time. Thank you to everybody that joined in. We had over 30 participants, attendees at one point, which is pretty good for this body and on a Friday night. I myself am missing my family's movie night right now, but and I'm sure a lot of people have things going on. But the beauty of recording it is that we will have it recorded and everybody will get it sent out to them. So thank you both again for your time. Thank you to all of our attendees, and have a good evening.
Likewise, thank you guys.
All right.